Hey everyone, rudyxx here to talk about another RPGalooza game, Okage Shadow King. And for those of you that don't know, RPGalooza is a project I started involving playing through a huge list of RPG titles ranging from Western style to Japanese. And while I'm not a huge RPG connoisseur, I do like to dabble in them every now and then, and so hopefully I can provide for you a more modern day gamer's look at my experiences with them. So with that out of the way, on to Okage Shadow King. When I started this game for RPGalooza, someone in my stream asked me that if Mother 3 had been released on the N64, like it originally had been planned to be released, would it have been more like Okage was than the GBA version of Mother 3? And while I definitely don't think it would have, it's interesting to think about because I always compare Okage to being a goofy Dragon Quest style RPG with memorable characters and a fantastic soundtrack, which ironically is exactly how I typically describe Mother 3, but I would never really say that Okage feels anything at all to me like any of the Mother series games. It's more like if Dragon Quest had two kids, Okage and Mother 3 would be siblings. They definitely have shared qualities, but also their own unique feel that separates them from each other. But anyways, I actually played Okage before playing it for RPGalooza. In fact, I actually did a few speedruns of the game several years ago, so this wasn't a new game for me by any chance. I do at least sort of remember somewhat vaguely hating the gameplay of the game when I played it originally when it released back in 2001. In fact, my original experience with the game was that I played it for a couple hours, then just got really frustrated and game sharked my way to the end. Now, that's not to say it's a bad game, just that I really had no idea what I was doing. And when regular encounters can have like 8 or 9 enemies in them, it gets really old really quick. Especially when you're one of those people that has no idea when it's better to run from an encounter or stay and fight. So you just fight literally every encounter you get in, despite the fact that many of them aren't worth the trouble. So if you're one of those people, you're going to have a really terrible time with this game. At the very least, the quirky story might keep you captivated, but yeah, some of the encounters in this game can get incredibly annoying. Another thing I'm really glad I was aware of is that the game has a balancing system and a catch-up system for experience points. Fighting every single encounter actually reaches a point where it's detrimental to you because you gain experience points relative to the enemies in the area. So when you first enter an area, a group might give you 500 experience, but after 4 or 5 encounters, they are suddenly going to be giving you 50 experience, and it's no longer prudent for you to fight anything, or at the very least you need to pick and choose your battles, because you're just wasting time and resources fighting a group of 8 enemies that is going to give you less experience than that of a group of 3 enemies in the same area might give. So anyways, I said all this to point out how terrible this game is for a new player that isn't going to catch all this and is going to get discouraged by the fact that there's a million enemies everywhere, and fighting enemies in this game really ruins the game dramatically. So when I gave this game for RPGalooza a review score of 7 out of 10, I want to do so with the discrepancy that if I don't know what I do about the game, I probably would have given this game a 2 or 3 out of 10. Like, I really love this game and it's incredibly quirky and neat and whatnot, but if I didn't know how to do things like camera manipulation or how to effectively fight enemies, I would have hated the entire process by the end. Every single area in the game is a confusing set of mazes, and it's incredibly easy to get lost in where you were even going when every encounter takes several minutes to get through. Like, I love this game, but in case you missed it the first time, this game has a lot of flaws, and as someone with very little patience for video game bullshit, I am incredibly glad I learned the speedrun for this game, because I probably would have quit before even fighting the first evil king. Having said all that though, I should probably point out some of the better aspects of the game because it definitely has a lot. The music is solid everywhere and really captures the essence of being on a goofy storybook adventure of like banding together and fighting evil. The story itself is kind of generic, but definitely has a few twists and turns that keep it interesting despite how generic it feels on the outside. And the dialogue between characters can get a bit silly at times, but it kind of brings out the characters in a way that really drives to the point what I think the developers were going for in relationship to the story as a whole. And while I'm definitely not one to talk to every NPC in a game, the dialogue in this is incredibly well written, and it's one of the few games that I'll admit is worth going out of the way for NPC dialogue. And while I definitely didn't do so for RPGalooza, there's also a number of side quests you can do if you're really into exploring every possible nook and cranny of this unfortunately small world. But anyways, that's basically all I have to say about Okage. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to look forward to many more RPG reviews in the future, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in seeing me actually play through a variety of games in real time, make sure you follow my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/rudyxx. Thanks for watching and see you next time.